Hey, Sarah's on this side. I tried to catch as many people as I could. I want to mention the big splits. Ice cream forever. Of course you do.
Hello. Welcome everyone. Hi. Hey Jack, how you doing? Okay, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. Welcome to the Indy Story Slam presented by Freetown Village in Freetown, Indiana. And sponsored by Maestro Organizing. And of course, our media partner, WFYI.
Sorry about that.
Like I need this microphone. Is Greg here? I didn't see him.
I don't think so.
He disappeared. You know, I went on his site and I said, I'm ready. He didn't respond. That means I don't have to clean out my garage. At any rate, in case you don't remember, tonight's theme is broken bones or hearts. I guess before I was on the back side, so I wasn't near to get the feedback. Kill the reverb. Kill the reverb. Please don't throw my coats Okay, I'm back. Our theme tonight is broken bones or hearts. Whatever you want to talk about, the theme is broad enough so that you can interpret it in many different ways. I have never really had a broken bone, but I remember the time my daddy had one. There was a blizzard. My mama told him specifically not to go outside, but he insisted because he was suffering from cabin fever. He insisted on going out to help dig somebody out. And in doing so, he broke his right leg. My mama didn't say, I told you so, but I know she was thinking it. But I do remember he bought this big, red, fluffy pillow from some corner peddler so he could lift his leg up and rest it on that pillow. And when his leg finally healed, I remember I moved that pillow all the way to Indianapolis when I moved here in 1977. That's really the only experience I had with broken bones. I might think about something a little bit later. But now I want you to know your story needs to be a true story. It needs to be told in the first person. And it should be no longer than 5 minutes in length because we are timing you. If you talk longer than 5 minutes, we're going to deduct some points. Now, why is that important? Because there are prizes. First, second, and third place cash prizes. And you want the money, honey. You need to talk 5 minutes or less. We have a timekeeper, we have judges. And I'm thinking that some of you are out here thinking, well, I've never had anything broken. My heart's never been broken, my bones have never been broken, but I bet as you listen to some of these stories, you'll come up with a story that you might want to tell. If so, let me know. We have some blank slips of paper, and you can fill it out. We'll call your name and ask you to come up on stage. Now, I'd like to thank our judges. I'm not telling you who they are right now because I don't want you to throw food down. But I would like to thank Shannon for running the live stream, making it look so good on the net.
Thank you, fans. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Samantha for taking care of all things related to the slam. Thank you, Samantha. Please know that Samantha is on a countdown. This is her last slam until September because she is about to pop. That's not what my paper says. It says go on maternity leave. But,
This is more accurate.
well, I have a bright green basket, and I'm going to reach into that basket and pull somebody's name out. And that person is obligated to come to the stage and tell us a story about a broken heart or a broken bone. All right. I've noticed that all of the pieces of paper are folded today. So I'm reaching in, pulling out a name. Can't wait to hear that first person talk about a broken heart or a broken bone. Hey, I know this story is going to be good because no beauty is the first thing I pull out of my bag.
I knew I'd be first. How many of you were in the school safety patrol? Sam Brown, Belt, and Badge. Well, I was in the school safety patrol at School Indy too. I was not particularly good at it. I ran and I threw rocks, and I was disrespectful to other safety patrol members, but I lasted. Turns out, 8 years later, I'm the elementary teacher who is the sponsor of the school safety patrol. And that was probably a mistake made by someone too. But let's go back to 1966 when I first started skateboarding. And I went down this S-turn, headed to the parkway, and then my buddy at the bottom screamed, "Car!" And I jumped off the skateboard, slid down the pavement, looked really good with scabs on my legs and arms. Football practice, my coach said, "Get rid of the skateboard." And so I did. And then 8 years later, I'm taking the safety patrol to the park. And we're gonna have a picnic. And we have a great picnic. They could walk. I drove my car and brought all the stuff. When we got there, we drank our drinks and we ate. And some kids who could walk there who were not in the safety patrol brought skateboards. And I thought, I'm pretty good at that. I remember that from 8 years ago. And so we were finished eating, I packed up my car, and I just looked at the kid and I said, "Can I borrow your skateboard?" And he said, "Sure." And I didn't take it in the parking lot because they were driving down this nice, smooth, freshly paved pavement, going from the swimming pool to the tennis courts. And I thought, what is the point of riding on that flat area? And I got at the top of that hill and I stepped on the skateboard, put one foot in front of the other, and went 10 feet before the skateboard kicked out from under me, and I forgot how to land. I put my right hand down to make sure I was safe. I got up with all the kids around me yelling, "Are you all right, Mr. Dooley?" "Yeah, I'm fine. But I need to just go back to school." So I opened the car door with my left hand. I sat in my car, which is a 4-speed. I had a steer and shift with my left hand, and I rode straight to the emergency room at community hospital, where they told me that, yes, your thumb is broken. We cannot do anything about it now, it's too swollen. Come back tomorrow morning. I had one problem with tomorrow morning. I was giving a talk to the entire school about summer safety. And I had to call my principal and say, I'm sorry, I'll be at the hospital. You will need to get someone else to get a summer safety talk. And so I didn't have to get a summer safety talk. I looked down and yes, and that is my only broken bone. Broken hearts could be another story.
Sort of like the blind leading the blind. Thank you, Noel. That was hilarious. If you think of a story you want to tell, we got lots of blank slips. There's Samantha. She'll give it to you with the pencil. You can fill it out. Because I know that one story leads to another. You know, you might want to know that our next meeting, the theme for June is gardens. And if you got a garden, or wanted a garden, or killed a garden, you might want to show me. And that will be at the Half Liter Barbecue in June. I'm going to reach into this magic lime bucket. I'm going to pull out another lime. Uh-oh, it's folded again. Those folded ones, you can go up first. Ah, Kevin. Kevin, what is your last name? Strong. Come on down. Let me tell you about this man right here. This man fixed the hydraulics on my car. That every time I raise it up to get my walker out of the back of my car, it will fall back down on my head. And it got to the point where I just didn't even bother to try and raise it all the way to the top. I just reached in enough to pull out my walker. But this man fixed it, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
I've never used a microphone before, so I'm not sure how far away to keep it. So I'm going to tell you about my first and only broken bone. I broke the bone just below my index finger on my right hand. And at that time, it was late 70s, they put casts on your hand. And I don't see casts much anymore, but as part of the cast, they put a metal brace that stuck out of the cast. And so my finger was always in the air. And I was still in high school. And of course, all day long, I had my hand down at my side, and the blood would run down the weight of the cast. And so when I would go in class, I would raise it up and set it on the desk. And somehow I got called on quite a bit, right? So, but that's not really the interesting part of the story. It's kind of an aside. The way I did it was in PE class, and the PE teacher was named Mr. Hardy. And Mr. Hardy was about 6'4", 240, and he was 25 years old. I was 15, and I played two sports, and football and basketball, and he coached wrestling and track. And he was also a PE teacher, like I said. And he went to high school just 10 years previously, or 7 years previously, to a rival school. So there was a little bit of, trash talk among him and the athletes at our high school. So, there was some banter back and forth. And one day, we had gone outside to play baseball. And over again, Mr. Hardy had to tell the class members great job. Run up on the ball when it's up in the air, and then have to turn around and watch it go over your head, right? So it was really funny. He said that about 5 times, and he was behind home plate, and somebody had chucked the ball at him, and he ran up on the ball and then watched it go over his head. So I had to mention that and say the exact same thing that he had been razzing everybody else about. Now, the whole class laughed at him. It was a good, good little exchange back and forth. But a few days later, it rained, and we were inside playing floor hockey. And I had my hockey stick out, and I was going for the puck. And here comes Andy Perkins over, buddy of mine, a year older, and he takes his hockey stick, runs it right up mine while trying to get the puck, and busts my hand, right, while I'm holding the stick. So I said, I screamed out. I said, I really think I need to go to the nurse. And Mr. Harding said, no. He said, you're not leaking blood, and it's not really swollen, right? So being the tough guy that I am, I stayed in the game, and finished playing. I'm sure everyone's seen it out at some point, but after we changed back into our street clothes, I asked, hey, can I go to the office? Because now it's swollen, and I'm pretty sure I broke it. So he said, yeah, go ahead. I didn't have to wait till the end of class. We went down, called my mom. She's on her way. And I'm sitting in class, in the office, waiting on my mom, and my hand's slowly swelling up. Well, sure enough, in walks a girl, cute little redhead. She's in my health class, and we have in class when we get the chance, we have a little conversation. A couple years older than me, I think she's cute, but she talks to me in that, oh, isn't that nice? She's got a crush on these boys, and so she says, well, why are you here in the office? And I said, well, because I broke my hand. She looked at me kind of strange, kind of moved on. And the next day I come to class with my hand in the cast, and she proceeds to tell everybody about how calm I was over a broken bone. And of course, I'm on cloud 9 the rest of the day because she had mentioned me and said I was quite manly about the whole thing. And I think that was the best way to get Mr. Harding back.
Thank you so much. I agree. All right. You might want to remember that on May 16th, Conversations in Indiana African American History and Culture, Race and Religion in the Heartland from 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmarks. Or maybe June 1st, you will want to come to Ellen Mine's retirement party at 6 p.m. at the Eugene Maryland Glen Indiana History Center. It's free, but we need you to go online to register, so we'll have a piece of cake for you, okay? Now, June 6th, here are stories, the life and afterlife of incarceration at Indy Reed's bookstore in Fountain Square is at 7 p.m. and that's free. And I'll remind you more about these events before we leave today. You'll also want to know that on June 20th, Conversations in Indiana African American History and Culture, Evolution of Hip Hop Culture in Indianapolis from 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmarks. I'm gonna have to go to one of those. So right now, I'm gonna reach into this magic library mask, and I want those people out there, I want you to think about what you've had broken, your heart or your bones. We got time for all kinds of stories. And I might even come over to your table and say, hey, I know you broke something. Come on up here and talk. So right now, Peg Black is going to come up and tell us a story.
Gig needs to stage.
Thank you. You're doing great.
Just hold it, I'm just talking to it. Ah, I can talk into it, really pretty. Okay. Well, I couldn't keep the time this one down to the exact time, so I'll get close as I can. All right. I want to start out saying that I always loved music from the time I was a kid. That's related, you'll see what I'm talking about in a bit. But finally got to college and got to indulge in all those fun things you get to do when you're in college, studying music and playing music and singing. Oh, it was great. And then I graduated from college and came back to the Lafayette area and started looking for a group to sing with. And I wanted to keep doing it. So one of the first groups I found was called La Masse. And they were doing a Gilbert and Sullivan production that year. The Mikado, you know. Yeah, yeah, that's, you recognize that, right? I fell in love with Gilbert and Sullivan. Oh my gosh, it was such great stuff. I couldn't wait for the next year for them to do another one. And then they didn't. The group disbanded. Wait, okay, I'll just form my own group. So I did. And the next summer, I started doing Gilbert and Sullivan shows, beginning with one called Trial by Jury, which is a one-act operetta of spoofing the jury system. And then a strange thing happened while I was doing the show. I developed a huge crush on my leading man. That was strange to me because I never played anything to the boys. Who cares? But I couldn't, I was hooked. I was hooked. He was cute, he was fun, he could sing, and it was a lot of fun. I was really hooked. So I was so hooked that I asked him to do some things with me after the show, come do some stuff with me. This is going to be great fun. We did some stuff, and I got more and more interested. And one night, I went over to visit him at his house, and oh, whoa, I found out he was gay. Now, I have nothing against gays, except that he wasn't going to love me back the way I wanted to. So that was a big loss. I was really heartbroken. I just stormed out of that house, ran all the way home, crying all the way. I said to myself, never again. Unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. I kept doing Gilbert and Sullivan plays, and sure enough, every single opera I did, I fell in love with my leading man. You'd think I would have learned, but no, I kept doing it, and it always came out the same. Oh, good grief. And then along came Jeff. Not too long after my mom. I got to know Jeff during the Gilbert and Sullivan show, and he seemed to be a real friendly guy, was very comfortable to talk with. One night, silly me, I bared my soul to him. I just said, oh, he's so good, he's so patient, I think maybe he's the guy. A week later, I heard him over on the phone talking to a friend, saying, this girl is just silly. You know, I'll just stay with her until I can talk her into being a Christian. I went, that was it. No, don't want to see him anymore. So we're going to Bob. Bob, I also got to know during Gilbert and Sullivan. And we did scenes together, and then we switched to doing Shakespeare scenes together. And of course, what do? Love scenes. I was hooked again. I was so hooked, I started writing really sloppy love letters. Luckily for me, I didn't send them. He told me in no uncertain terms, wasn't interested. Sigh. Heartbreak after heartbreak. I didn't know what to do. So I decided I had better do some other kind of music. Stop focusing on this. So I did. I sang with a group called the Lafayette Chamber Singers. They sing madrigals from medieval days to the present. Thank you. And I wanted to sing with them. Music started making me feel good. So that was really great. I have sung with this group for 50 years.
And I love every minute of the music. So I got to sing along with him. And then last season I discovered that they were gonna quit. They were gonna stop. No more singing. The director had decided that he'd had enough in 50 years. So this last Sunday, we sang our final concert. I had all I could do to get through the concert without completely breaking down. I didn't, but that was the end. That was the end, the real end. That was real hard as far as I was concerned. What was I supposed to do? I did keep one thing from the book. I kept the friendships that I made while I was singing. And one of those friends is here with me tonight, Jack Black. He sung with me in the book. And thank you, Jack, for singing and being a good friend. And now, as I get to the end of this, to conclude, I have one last thing to say. It's something that an Irish folk song singer sang as he came to the end of his book. I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be with you all.
That's great.
You never know when you'll get a concert. Thank you so much. Listen, I know some of you are thinking right now of a story you can tell about a broken heart or a broken bone. All right? Think about it. As I reach over here and pull out another slip. It's folded. I don't know why they keep folding these things. Because those are the ones that I touch first. Listen. Don't forget, Miss Ophelia holds up her finger when it gets to 4 minutes, so you have an idea of how much time you have left. But right now, Tracy Wynn, come on down.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm gonna tell you something, a story. I'm not gonna touch on all those broken hearts because it's been many. But I'm gonna tell you a story about something else that got broken a long time ago. When I was, well, right now, to this day, I love washing dishes. I love the warm water on my hands. I love the time that you can just sit and contemplate and look out the kitchen window and just wash dishes. It never bothered me. I've always been the one to want to wash dishes. Even to the point when I was 7 years old. 7 years old, had a chair, and I was in the chair washing dishes. And I had two sisters, one older, one younger. Two Virgo sisters at that. I'm sorry for the Virgos out there. Two Virgo sisters, and I'm the Aries, the sensitive one. Well, my oldest sister is 5 years older than me. And as we were washing the dishes, we were also playing swords with the butcher knives. And our parents weren't home. And I should not have been washing dishes. She, my older sister, should have been washing dishes. Well, as we're playing swords with the butcher knives, my little sister, who's 2.5 years younger than me, decides that she is going to pull the chair from under me. Well, my left hand, goes down in the dishwater. And what's in the dishwater? A butcher knife. Oh no. And because I was playing swords with my right hand, y'all. So the left hand went in the water to try to catch me. And when I lifted my hand up out of the water, my finger was hanging out. And I looked at it at 7 and I said, oh my God, Dee, what have I done? What have I done? What has happened? Oh, she knew she was in big trouble. She knew she was in big trouble. She called my parents who were at my grandparents' house. She called them and told them we had an accident. They told her to run cold water over my head. There was so much blood that you could really not even tell where the cut was. But the cut had sliced the whole finger through the tendons all the way around. So the finger was actually just hanging on. And they said, hold it together. They held it together until they could get home and take me to the hospital. And my parents came home. Of course, they were furious but upset, and they had to rush me to the hospital to get the finger saved. They had to call in a specialist to save this finger on my hand. And Dr. Raymond Pierce came in, and the champion he was, and he saved that finger. Oh, there was hell going on in that waiting room, in that operating room. I remember clearly telling the nurse to shut up. And I was only 7. I told her, she was like, oh, don't worry, don't worry. And I was like, shut up. You know, 7 years old, but ever since then, people rarely notice this finger, which will not bend. They rarely notice it, but I always call it my broken finger. I tell them, people say, what happened to your finger? If they notice it, I say, that's my broken finger. That's my broken finger, because it was broken. I had to have a big old cast all the way up to here. I had to do lots of therapy with this finger to get it to actually work, where I could do something with it. You know, I can bend it under a fist, but I can't bend it on its own. But it was my broken finger. But still to this day, I love to wash dishes. I don't matter. It doesn't matter what's going on. I love putting my hands in that warm water. And I don't worry about the broken finger. I lived all my life from 7 to now, which you don't know my age. To now. And I still have this finger on my hand. And I still have my love of washing dishes. Thank you.
I have no idea.
Listen now, I know some of y'all are just thinking, well, I got something broken. I got a story I want to tell. Samantha, wave your hand in the air. If you need a blank form to fill out a slip, we got time to hear your story about something that was broken. But right now, I just pulled out another slip. Yeah, my name is here to tell a story.
All right, well, deep in the annals of psychological diagnosis, you will find mechanophobia. That is a fear of machines. In particular, it's machines that can really mess you up if you don't use them correctly. And I happen to suffer from 2 forms of mechanophobia. A fear of paper cutters and a fear of sewing machines. Now, the fear of paper cutters is 100% the fault of my paternal grandmother, who never once used a paper cutter in my presence without regaling me of the story of how she'd almost lost her index finger as a young art teacher, except for the saving graces of a student who had been in Boy Scout with the first take merit. So I can use a paper cutter, but every time I do, it comes with a little bit of panic, a lot of heavy breathing, and a very rigid safety protocol. Now, sewing machines, that is a phobic beast of a different stripe. So I'm a maker for that part. I work in a historical museum, and over the past decade, I have honed skills. I make my own bread, I make my own cheese, I can brew beer, I can clean a chair, I can weave a basket, I can slaughter a hog and smoke a ham, I can blacksmith a knife, I can spin wool, I can process flax, I can forage the heck out of the Indian wilderness. All of these skills, by the way, have put me as a top tier pick in a lot of zombie apocalypse teams. And I can pattern and sew by hand, but I find it really tedious. So there's a certain kind of heartbreak as a woman of size that comes with the fact that I can't sit down in front of a sewing machine and just make the clothes I know I'm able to make that I want to wear instead of the clothes that are offered to me by the rest of the world. Much like the paper cutter, I can trace my fear of sewing machines to a particular place and time. It was the summer of 1971. I was 3.5 years old. Do the math in your head, that's fine. My older brother and sister and I had been in the backyard all day splashing in the wading pool, and my mom had called us in to get dried off and changed before my dad got home for supper. So she decided to offer us something to pass the time, so she said she'd give us all horseback rides. Right? So one by one, we 3 kids climbed on her back, oldest, youngest, and on all fours, she galloped us around the river, past the love seat and the big bay window, down by the TV, in between the coffee table and the sofa, and then back to the little wall that separated the dining area and the foyer. So after my ride, my older sister Shelley apparently was ready for a second go round, and I was apparently not dismounted quickly enough. So with all the impetuous entitlement that a 7-year-old can muster, she reached out both hands and just shoved me right out the back of my mom. I don't remember the flight from my mom's back, but I remember where the flight ended. It was right at the point where my head impacted the corner of the wall that separated the dining area and the foyer. It wasn't the pain or anything that gave me a jolt. What gave me the jolt was that little moment of delight when 3-year-old me realized that the little stars that swirl around cartoon characters' heads when they get whacked with the frying pan, those are real. I saw stars, real stars for just a minute. And then nothing. And the next I knew, I was in the El Camino, stretched across the bench to my head in mom's lap and my feet in dad's. I was all red and sticky with blood. And mom had a beach towel, the same one that we dried ourselves off with just a little bit ago, trying to dab away at the blood out of my face and my hair. And it must have been crying or fussing or screaming, maybe, I don't know. She was trying to calm me down. And then Dad did what Dad always did. He tried to lighten it up with a joke. Don't worry, he said, don't worry, don't be scared. When we get to the hospital, all that's going to happen is they're going to put your head in a giant sewing machine and sew you right up. I didn't get the joke, because all I could imagine at that moment was my bloody skull being jammed into a larger-than-life sewing machine with a foot, that metal thing that slaps down on the material and straddles that piston needle just going in and out of my blood. So yeah, sewing machines. To this day, I can't sit in front of one without the fear that it will somehow grab some part of my anatomy and do grievous harm. And I know intellectually that's not going to happen, but emotionally, it's a different story. So I think about that sometimes. I think about how a little tiny seed of fear gets planted and then grows into this skyscraper high tree boughs heavy with panic and anxiety. Because I'm not like my dad, you know, I was trying to make light of your sadness or fear. And I worry sometimes about the seeds of heartbreak that I may have planted in the hearts of the people that I love and what they may reach.
Thank you so much. I used to sew, but I won't try anymore. Nope, that scared me. If you want a blank slip of paper and a pen, I got room for more stories about broken hearts or broken bones. Anybody in this room? Did I tell y'all that cash prizes, money, first, second, and third, 5 minutes or less? It's got to be a true story told in the first person. All right. I don't want to interrupt your dinner, but hey, that's why we're here. Right now, the famous Chef Black.
this?
Yes.
On Sunday, when some of you may have been telling or listening to Mother's Day stories, I was singing the final concert of a group that I only joined 22 years ago. And I guess I'm not the only one here from the group, and others may be mentioned. And the Monday evening, I spent gathering up music from those 22 years to give back so it can be sent off to other choral groups as ours fades away. And a lot of the conversation in the last few weeks of rehearsal has been along the lines of, so what will you do next? Audition for some other group? What will you do when you can't sing with LCS anymore? Wish me luck the same to you. What I'm going to do is read through event calendars like a madman, and every last remotely interesting event taking place on a Tuesday night, I am there. Because I live in a university town and there is almost always something on, and the last thing that was on a Tuesday night that I did not have to skip may have been about whether to start a war in Iraq. Okay, so that's too bad about the Tuesday night's chat, but are you really peddling this as a heartbreak story? Well, I wouldn't if there weren't also, some years ago, a connection to a breakup. And it was a breakup with someone else who sang in the group. So there's no simple explanation, like she couldn't stand me having this fixed night every week, but I was never free to do stuff. She had a night like that too. It was the same night. What could go wrong? And the way she explained it, on the night she set me free, part of it had to do with this other community group that put on their chapter dinner shindig once a year. And she knew I had taken someone else to that shindig the year before we were together. And in the subsequent years, I had never asked her to attend it with me. And from that, she had taken that I must have seen her as someone I would never introduce in that crowd. And if she had ever, any time in those years, asked me, hey, chap, how come you took Mary Beth to that shindig that one year, but you never asked me to it? I could have said, as you've already guessed, they used to pick Saturday nights. And every year since then, I've waited for that announcement and opened it and put it in the recycling and never told you about it because I saw they picked a Tuesday night and neither you nor I could go. And I guess I could have still tried to say that even then on that night when nothing she was saying to me was phrased as a question. You don't really get to, well, actually, someone who is breaking up with you. And it wasn't the only reason she gave anyway, but some of those others also grew out of questions that could have been asked. I mean, are we seriously still going off a man with some buddies, a woman with some girlfriends who confer about our partners behind their backs as if consulting with a dog trainer about how to interpret your schnauzer? It baffles especially my queer friends who react like, good heavens, act like you're not two different species. Ask questions already. It's what we have to do. It works for us. And I think they may have a point because this not asking of questions, it breaks stuff. Like 10 years ago, it broke my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Now I know I'm getting more slips in here, y'all. Hold it. Somebody reach in here and grab one that's not COVID. Ah, what a delight. Now listen, if you have a story about a broken heart or a broken bone, there's time to sign up. Miss Sophia will raise her hand when you get to 4 minutes to give you a warning. But right now, we're going to listen to the incredible Jennifer Cody.
My story is about both broken hearts and broken bones. My grandpa Leo was about 80 when the doctors told him that he would need triple bypass surgery. And next to my own dad, his dad, my grandpa Leo, was the kindest, gentlest man I've ever known. He was incurably optimistic. It drove my grandma crazy. He called himself Lucky Leo. He made up words like splendido to describe how he was feeling. Instead of just saying hello, all he would say was terrific, terrific. It was sort of his catchphrase, terrific. And he gave the sloppiest kisses. When he wasn't smiling, he was laughing so hard he was wheezing. And I could not believe that he would need open heart surgery because his heart was too good to be broken. I was in my 20s. It was as if I had forgotten everything I learned about anatomy and was thrust back to the time of the ancients to believe that the heart is the seat of goodness and love. My grandpa was the father of 9 children, and they were divided over the surgery. If he went through with the surgery, he could die on the table, but if he opted out of the surgery, he wouldn't have the years that the surgery could afford him. I was one of 31 grandchildren, and I did not have a vote, but I hated the idea of someone breaking my grandfather's rib cage and exposing his heart. The day of the surgery, all I could do was get on my knees and pray. And he did fine. When he was extubated, his first words, according to the doctors, was, of course, a croaky, terrific. My grandpa lived many more years. He actually lived to 91 and outlived my grandma. And by that time, he had developed advanced Alzheimer's, to the point that we were afraid. He was living in a home separate from my grandma. He was in a wheelchair. We didn't think that he would, we were afraid he wouldn't understand that my grandma had passed. But at the funeral home, my dad and his siblings wheeled my grandpa up to the coffin, and he looked at my grandma and he said, he smiled, of course, and said, "There's my sweetheart." And 8 days later, like the cheesy ending of some Nicholas Sparks novel, my grandpa joined my grandma. And I was with him when he passed, and it was so peaceful. It was like watching the tide go out as his breathing and heartbeat slowed and stopped. And so all of us once again gathered at the same funeral home we were at the week before for Grandma. And my dad played this recording, an old recording of my grandpa telling the story of the night he met Grandma. And we all knew the story. They had met at a dance after the war, and he had seen her across the room and went out to ask her name. And they danced to some enchanted evening, which would forever be their song. And the sound quality of the recording wasn't good, so we all had to be perfectly still and silent to hear. And we heard Grandpa's raspy voice wheezing with laughter, and my grandmother occasionally interrupting him to correct him on the details. And I looked around and could see my dad, his 8 siblings, all 31 of us grandchildren, some of them married, some with children of their own. Everyone perfectly still, perfectly silent, and smiling. We have inherited that from our grandpa. Heartbroken in the best possible way.
Thank you, Judy, that was wonderful. Terrific. I'm not to forget that word. Yes, yes. Now, time in case you have a story about heartbreak or broken bones. There's time to hear another story from Aaron Stewart Jr. Aaron, come on in.
I swear I have a beer and I'm breathing handle the microphone. Everybody hear me good? Yeah. Here? But now. Didn't think I was gonna go this quickly. So, I've been thinking about this, and you know when people talk about when you're supposed to pick up the pieces after a broken heart. Well, I wasn't really prepared for it to be me who would be the one who's gonna do it over and over again. Even, you know, with losing family members a little too soon, even friends, and not being able to say goodbye, you know, proper goodbye. And a couple of pretty profound and revolutionary romantic ones. All through all of those, I still kind of looked at myself and thought, even in the smallest way, it's just all my fault anyway. So I kind of saw this mostly through a pretty big breakup. I had met this girl in my end of my freshman year, or first semester of college, and we saw each other, and it was just like we knew each other our whole lives. It was crazy, it was instant connection, and kind of like, you know, the previous story, even like my mom and dad, I looked at that girl, and after experiencing this one girl who was just using me and using me for months on end, I was just ready to give it all up. I was ready to just focus on school and just care about myself and not worry about love anymore. Because I done time and time again in high school, and it never really worked out for me that well. So I looked at her and did a double take on her, and I didn't believe that I could just wash all of that hatred and loathing away for love. I was just so ready to just get to know her, even though her best friend told me she was just having something complicated. And I told myself, I cannot get into something like that again. Yet I saw that little crack in the window, and I thought I was just going to try. So for about 5 years, no matter what happened between us, we kept the shore and we just kept going. Even when I kind of stepped out on her because I kind of gave in to the what ifs of my life, you know, people telling me, oh, you're too young, you know, don't worry about it right now, don't need more about marriage, oh, it's not gonna last, it's just a college relationship, and I kind of believed them, but I was never sure, never made it in my mind. I kind of just let it fester and boil until I gave into it, and she forgave me for that, but it never really fixed itself. All I really did was kind of hate myself for it. You know, for about 3 years until I had actually gave action to it and virtually had cheated on her with somebody online. Understandably, she had left me. And for about a year, every single day, all I did was pick apart every little thing I did wrong in that relationship and completely hate myself for it. To the point where I kind of figured that that was just it. I wanted her back so bad that I just kept every few months trying to reach out to her and see if she wanted to talk. And finally, I did hear from her, and she had her friend answer the phone and verbally tear me a new one about everything that I had did to her and hurt her. And oddly enough, when I got to her the next morning, sitting up all night with a hole in my head, I had thought, like, not mad at her for telling me that she standing up for herself and, you know, saying that I had walked all over her in the relationship, which later on she did apologize for that. That wasn't necessarily true, but in some ways, even then I wasn't mad at her. I was just telling myself that it's You know, she's right. She went through so much in her life and a lot of trauma that I didn't think she should have. And I added to that, telling her from the beginning, I was never going to do that to you. And I ended up doing that exact same thing. And then about a year later, last year, in fact, I had a similar situation with the woman spewing vile words at me saying, I am a monster. I am the problem. I don't deserve love. And then realized that I hated myself more than I loved them. And I didn't know where it came from, but it's making me think that, that broken heart, I feel it every day, and they're long gone. It's for me, but I'm pulling through. I'm doing better, and I think seeing that kind of shows me that it's something that everyone can see. And for me, it's doing better. I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Page. She raises her finger when you have 1 minute left and 4 minutes. So you have an idea of how to stop your tail. Again, I can look out of the audience and I can see that you have stories about broken hearts, broken bones. And if you want to tell one, just let me know. Samantha's over here with blank slips of paper. We can fill it in. I can pull your name, just like I pulled. I have no idea what his name is. Is it Garen? Garen? Who was Baker in here?
Oh, okay.
What's the first name? Aaron? Jerry. Girl, that's not what you wrote. But come on, Jerry Baker, because she tells us a story.
Okay, there is a song that many of you know, so I want you to sing it with me as I start. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You only know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I still love that song. Love, love, love that song. I knew it as a child. And I would sing it a lot to someone who passed. And I am convinced that that song is written by someone who knows loss and a broken heart. I sang that song a lot to my dog Buddy. This was the best dog ever for 3 reasons. First, Buddy was the first dog that my husband and I had owned together. Second, this dog was the first dog that helped me get over being afraid of dogs. Because I was attacked by a dog when I was little and I didn't like dogs. So I was so afraid of them. And I would just be nervous around this dog and he would kiss me and make me feel better. And 3, this dog quickly became our child. You see, I have never been able to have my own children. And so this dog was the love of my life. We would take this fur baby with us wherever we went, to all of our vacations, to our parents' house, to the store, to the park, everywhere we could go. We would take this dog as our baby. In his 16th year, we actually added to our family 2 girls, 10 and 11, for adoption. And they were from a foreign country and couldn't speak very well. And they were just learning how to speak a little bit, and Buddy got sick. And I knew that my husband needed to take him to the doctor, but I didn't think much of it. And I was kissing Buddy that morning and saying, "Oh, Buddy, you're gonna be okay at the doctor. It'll be fine. It'll be fine." And my husband starts teasing me, "Oh, you better say goodbye to Buddy now, because he's not gonna come back." And I'm like, "Oh, stop it. You're just being silly." 2 hours later, though, he calls and he says, something about the vet says, you need to come in, but he is not going to be coming home. So I go to the vet and meet my husband, Andy, my 2 girls, Elena and Christina. And I thought, okay, well, this is a big family moment for us because this is the first time that we're facing something big together. And I thought, okay, we can do this, we can do this. My dog is spread out on the floor. I'm laying with my dog. We're trying to explain to them what the vet is doing as the vet administers the medicine. I'm crying, Amy's crying, and Elena, the oldest, is crying. But the little was when 10 years old, not so much. Matter of fact, she lays down and starts squinting Buddy's eyes. She looks at Buddy and goes, You're not bleeding. You're not bleeding. And I'm like, the dagger in my heart starts to happen. And then she puts her ear to the side. He's not breathing. He's not breathing. And I look up at my husband and I grab his hand and I said, I love you, honey, but you're gonna have to take these girls out of this room. You have to take them out. So graciously, even though his heart was broken too, he takes them out. And I lay with my dog, my fur baby, my first child, as he passes away. My daughter, not knowing what is happening and understanding it because they had never processed their own grief and their own pain yet in their life. They didn't understand. And when we get in the car, the youngest one keeps going, why do you feel Buddy? Why do you feel Buddy? Why do you feel Buddy? And I look at my husband and I'm like, but we started to laugh because all we could do in our tears and in our pain was laugh at this little girl who hadn't understand grief or understand her own life yet and trying to put it in perspective. It took a couple months for her to stop saying that. But finally she did. And she has understood grief for her own self now by losing her own fur baby. It took me a lot longer though to forget my own broken heart because I still sing that song to my dogs and remember that day. Sing it with me. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy, the skies are red. Your home knows here how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Oh, you're pretty.
I could see the horror that you told me your name. I was so sad. But just think, they went to school the next day and told the teacher what you had done to their dog. Okay? Sort of like that, who's that lonely lady, Turner dog of the week? You know what I'm talking about. It's in the news. I gotta block it out. Anyway, if you have another story to tell, don't leave me now. Are y'all leaving?
Yeah.
You don't have a broken heart story? You don't have a broken bone story? Listen, I'll call you. All right. Thanks for coming. That's my friend, Elizabeth and Eliza. Thanks for coming. And Candace. Thanks. For the rest of you are in hell active. All right, our next storyteller. Ooh, this is gonna be a good one. Leandra Radford, come on down.
No, wait a minute. I'm a little taller. Well, you can hear me. So coming here tonight, I wasn't sure I was going to make it, so I had a few stories in my mind, and I was going to tell a story about my first love and my first heartbreak, and my first and only broken bone. But as I was thinking of that story, I realized I had another first love. And I never consider or talk about this person in terms of a first love because I was 8 and he was 12. So I don't know if it really counts for first love, but my heart was broken. So, about 8 years old, I have been raised in the same church that I've always gone to, probably since birth. I've been raised in this church, and quite naturally, there were other kids around my age that also went to the church. And we have been all going there since we knew each other, since we knew who we were. And there was this one young man who everybody felt like family, except for this one young man who was about 4 years older than me. I'm aged about 12, a very rambunctious 12. But oh my gosh, he was the cutest thing ever in my book. I was so in love with this boy. We were, because of the age difference, we were in different Sunday school classes. And our Sunday school, every week, they would pick one person to go, they would leave Sunday school early, and they would go from class to class to class to pick up the attendance, so that when we got to the regular church, that people could say, oh, you know, the intermediate group have this many, and the preteens have this many, and so forth. And I would always volunteer to go, just so I could get an extra glimpse at him and know. Now, I was at a time to do it, but I have to tell you all, as a child, I was extremely shy. Extremely shy. And I was so shy, in fact, that I had my peers at one point believe that I couldn't read. I'm an avid reader. I grew up and became an English teacher. So I can read, but the reason people thought that I couldn't read is because this guy and this boy that I was so in love with, his Sunday school teacher had some type of surgery. And so her class had to come to my Sunday school class. And so whenever I was called upon to read, I stuttered, I was shy, or I just wouldn't say anything because I was afraid that I would say something stupid in his presence. So that's how much in love I was with him. Now here comes the heartbreak. So the older kids were considered in my book the cool kids club. And one particular Sunday, I was coming down into the basement of our church, and there was an open area, you can go to the restrooms, but then over in this area, that was an area where we had dinner at church. There were lots of tables and chairs and stuff, but we would kind of commune in there after Sunday school while we were waiting for regular church to begin. And as I'm coming in, I see all the older kids, who I consider the cool kids, in there. And I thought, oh, let's call him Tony, because that's his name. So Tony was over with the cool kids club, and I was like, today, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go sit with them. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And my sister was with them, so that was kind of like I feel a little comfortable. And if I start to fluster as a sister, she would have my back. So I go and I'm like, hey guys, trying to play it off real cool. Hey guys, what's going on? And I go to sit in the chair. And remember I said rambunctious Tony? He pulls the chair out from under me. And this is how I know that there is a God. Because on my way down, I was thinking, please God, don't let this be happening. I'm going to be so embarrassed. But just as either before or as I'm hitting the ground, Tony's mother was coming down the steps, and she had saw what had happened. And she reached out. I mean, it was like she came from nowhere and slapped the daylight out of him. And I was like, okay, everybody's looking at Tony and getting slapped and not me falling to the ground. And so I was heartbroken because I quickly realized he is no knight in shining armor for me. So they don't want you to pay for church. Okay? Thank you, Yana. That was hilarious. I try to have a little break in between so that in case you realize you have a story about a broken heart or a broken bone, there's still time to sign up. Samantha's standing there. She's got the blank slips. So I know as soon as you hear this next sentence,
You are going to want to come up and tell your story in the first person. You're going to want to tell it in the broadest or narrowest sense of the word about a broken heart, a broken bone. So, but right now, Samantha.
So fresh out of college, I lived with my parents for approximately 4 weeks, which coincidentally was about the time that my stepmother pulled me aside and said, "So what are you gonna do? You can't just live here, you gotta work." By the next morning, I had a full-time teaching position down here in Indianapolis, where my now husband was living with his parents. So, what's the best part about getting your first full-time job out of college? Having a salary. Now keep in mind, this was like 10 years ago, and I was a first year public school teacher, but I was living the bougie life on a budget. So we were living with my now in-laws on the 3rd floor, and it was great because all I was doing was saving up this money, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. My now husband and I were talking about where we were going to live, from the city, things we could do in our spare time now that we both were graduated and he wasn't working yet. And I decided to really wow him as his new full-time working gal and take him to the March Madness tournament. I was so excited, but keep in mind, I was on that budget, that I got the nosebleed seats. And if you've ever seen a football game at Lucas Oil, imagine something even smaller, a basketball game, from the nosebleeds. So we're sitting there, we're enjoying the game, we're really into it. My husband goes and gets me, some nachos, and we're enjoying that, we're laughing and watching. And before we know it, there's a timeout on the court, or so we thought. And we're enjoying these nachos and sipping our drinks, and all of a sudden, up in the nosebleeds, phones start getting passed around. And we're like, that's kind of weird. This is a really long timeout. What could be going on? And before we know it, we catch a glimpse of someone's phone a few rows ahead of us. And we see one of the players go down the court in the instant replay. And again, all these people have these really shocked looks on their face. Well, it turns out this was the year 2013 of Louisville's Kevin Ware, where he stepped the wrong way and snapped his entire leg in half to the point where bone was sticking out and his fellow players were puking on the court. However, even though we thought we were, attentive to the game and watching, we were so far up that we didn't even notice that this had happened, and we're just continuing to eat our food as normal. So moral of the story is sometimes it pays to, well, not really pay.
I was sitting there going, I remember that. That's because you only got eyes for each other. Okay? Tell them I said that when you know. Listen, there's still time to sign up if you want to tell a story about a broken heart or broken bone. I remember going to the doctor because I just didn't feel right, and I had been feeling bad for quite some time. And I couldn't understand why. And he sent me to get x-rays. And after he read the x-rays, he said that I had, my tailbone was broken. And he said, well, did you fall? I said, nope, I would know if I fell. But about 6 weeks earlier, he said, you broke it. And I was trying to think, what was I doing to break my tailbone? But you got to be sitting on it or fall on it, whatever. And the only thing I could remember was being down at Hilton Head and riding a bicycle and going over a bump. And I remember I could barely walk the next day. And I kept thinking, that bike ride should have done me in that way. What happened? And that's how I figured out I had a broken tailbone. Wasn't much use to me then. But I know Barb Decker's got a story that she's going to come up here and tell about a broken heart or broken bones.
Hello. I broke my ankle having a colonoscopy. As you do, I have been drinking all of the prep all day. And then things started in motion at evening. And in order to save my husband, me getting up and down, I went to the bathroom on the other side of the house in our utility room. And during the night, I had been getting up quite a bit. I was on the couch in the other side of the house. I got up and I was in the utility room and I started to get dizzy. And all of a sudden, I was on the ground. When I tried to get up, I couldn't. I couldn't put my weight on my foot. And I just didn't. I started yelling for Tim and yelled for him and yelled for him and nothing. So I crawled on all fours, well, on a knee, not on an ankle, to my purse in the kitchen and got my cell phone. And luckily, we still had a landline. And I dialed him and called him, but I had to call him twice because he didn't know when to wake up the first time. And he picked up and he's like, Tim, I broke my ankle, I think. And he's like, what? I said, Tim, come here. I can't get up. So he came out, got me up. We finished through the night. He took me to the hospital for the colonoscopy. I got in, I had to hop into the hospital and on one foot, and they put me in a wheelchair. They got me into the colonoscopy. My doctor, Dr. Sal, I said, I think I broke my ankle. He goes, nah, you just twisted it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, okay. Did the colonoscopy, came out. So I'm in recovery. And then I said, Dr. Sal, I think there's something wrong with my ankle. Because, well, you're in the hospital, whatever. We'll go down and do an x-ray just to make sure that you're okay. Did an x-ray, he comes in, he goes, you have a broken ankle. I'm like, yeah, I did. And so the only great thing about this is that now, barring something really wrong that shows up, I don't have to do colonoscopies anymore. I just do Cologuard.
No.
Barb, that's hilarious. I just imagine all kinds of things, how you gonna get that broken leg and that colonoscopy together. It was a lot cleaner than I thought it was gonna be. Now listen, if you got a story about a broken heart or a broken bone and you want to tell it, there's Samantha right there passing out those yellow slips. You won't even have to fill out a slip if you just want to come around here. And the reason she's passing out those slips is because we want to give out prizes. We're going to draw some names for a prize at the very end of the show. But until that time, I have one more name in the bucket. And it's a story that I don't know what it's going to be. I can imagine. But Donna K. Jones is about to tell us about a broken bone or a broken heart.
Well, I already told my story several months ago about that. Yeah, it's not really a broken heart, but anyway. I have known this woman for a very long time. We used to work together in the Department of Public Instruction. We had an intramural softball. We had the various departments, little, I don't really department, I guess, hey, whatever. So, there was one game in particular that we played. Now, these games were always well attended by the people that we worked with. And I have a little yellow Volkswagen. This was in August. My mother was a member of a fraternal organization, the Daughters of ISIS. And it was a Shriner Women's Auxiliary. So she was in, I forget where she was, this was in Florida for their annual convention. But anyway, so I'm at their house, the parents' house, taking care of the plants and whatever. And we're at the car. The assistant superintendent, Mr. Ray Swaby, who had never played the infield, had always been an outfielder. Their team came up one person short. So they decided to put Ray on first base. Now, when I was in the Navy, I got the award for being the fastest person on our team. It was given the proper motivation. I could move rather quick. So I hit this little short hopper to the shortstop. I take off my top. We had already decided to take a team. So I'm barreling it. I look over. He's passing the ball. He's getting ready to throw it to Ray Slavin. Even then, he never played first base. Ray steps in front of the bag. I turn around. Ray, short white guy, big head, big forehead, whose hairline started back here. I hit Ray in the forehead with my chin. I go down on all fours. Ray looks like a cartoon character from Bugs Bunny. I put my hand to my face because it hurts. I take my hand down. I am bleeding profusely. Friends take me to Methodist Hospital, where I have to have my stuff watered. 2 days later, my mother comes home. Somebody had to drive my car because I couldn't do it. Somebody drove my car home, which I picked up later. 2 days later, my mother comes up, sees that my face is all wired out, and goes, "What happened to you?"
Because I was the catcher. And it was a crash that you could not believe. And the thing about it, not only was her jaw broken and wired, they had to dig her teeth out of Ray Slavy's skull. But I think we won the game. Now, is there anybody here who has a story about heartbreak or something they broke? In the heartlands will be from 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmark. June 1st, that's Ellen's retirement party. please go online and register so we know how many pieces of cake to cut. The more people, the smaller the slices. And that will be held at 6 p.m. in the Eugene and Maryland Indiana History Center. It's free, but register. June 6th, here are stories, the life and afterlife of incarceration at Indy Reed's bookstore in Fountain Square, 7 p.m. That's also free. And June 20th, conversations in Indiana African American history and culture. The topic, evolution of hip hop culture in Indianapolis, 6 to 7:30 at Indiana Landmarks. Two books available, From Stage to Page, Stories from the Great Brazil, Emerging Stories Fellowship, or If These Walls Could Tell. So I give one person two books or two people one book. Stories have been hilarious. Yes, both of you. I hope to see you next month at a half later. If not, at one of our other venues. And again, Story Time brought to you by Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts, Nice Organizing, and WFYI. Thanks for coming. Adios, folks. Oh, I forgot. I was done.
Listen, show's over, okay?
We got to go now. When you call your name, we do want you to come up so we can take a picture. So about my life, listen, I'm going to my reunion, my 50th reunion. Yes, I am. And I'm going to come back in time for Ellen's reunion. I might not be welcome when I'm going. You're on the committee. I'm not on the committee. I'm not on the committee. Listen, thank you for coming, Roland, our new Mama. Yay! M-A-R-R-A, Mama. Okay. You will be trying to fill Ellen's shoes. We will not be mean to him. We will help him in every way we can. But our winners are.
Thank you so much. Our winners are, our first place winner is Tracy. Right? Our second place winner is Jack Lee. And our third place winner, is Leon Thorell.
And we came to our story slam.